Hello everyone, you're watching AMN Plus. This is our weekly program, Diplomatic Corner. It has been 120 years since Ethiopia and Germany began their diplomatic relations. Since then, they have just maintained their relationships. Today, I'm sitting with Dr. Ferdinand von Bohe, the Charge d'Affaires in the Embassy of Germany. We're going to talk about climate change, development, security, and other issues. Stay with us. Well, Doctor, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, and most welcome to the German Embassy.
It has been months or a year since you became acting ambassador of Germany to Ethiopia.
Well, actually, I'm in a way filling in because our ambassador left this summer, beginning this summer, and the new one is about to arrive. We don't know exactly when this will happen. So in the meantime, I'm filling in as acting ambassador.
Let's just start with these questions. I think you know a little about the city, Addis Ababa. So tell us some impressions that's created in you, and there might be something that Addis Ababa, the city, learns from the cities in Germany. And Germany, well-developed cities, I think Germany has. So tell us about your impression, and what do you think Addis Ababa needs to learn from German cities?
I've been here now for 2 years, and I, with my family, we really love living in this city. It's a city that has a lot of green, especially also thanks to Entoto and the surrounding hills. So this is very refreshing for the city. But I do understand the emperor, like 120 years, 140 years back, that he decided to come further down because it's up the hills, it's rather cool. And I do see a lot of change, even in these 2 years I've been living here, a lot of change, and we hear at this very moment a lot of construction going on, a lot of construction that is, I do believe, improving the city. Some of our neighbors had to leave. We see this in the city, but we also see a lot of development, a huge amount of construction that is going on. I wouldn't see any German city, you are asking for a comparison with German city. I don't see any German city like this with so much construction going on at the same time. For us, when we come to designing a city, and let me just add here that there's a perfect, if you want to dig deeper here, a perfect partnership between the city of Addis Ababa and the city of Leipzig, because they're sister cities. And I think this can be really developed further, because also in Leipzig there was a huge change after the reunification. What I do see, and what we take very important when it comes to city development, is the question of infrastructure, of public service, public transport, electricity, gas, which is important in Germany for the heating, of course, or other means of heating. When it comes to public transport, which is very important. So what I saw with great interest coming here is this single line of light train. We have in all cities many subways and light trains. I think this is a very important tool of transport. I see these small buses, which I think are very flexible and thus very appropriate for many passengers. I see them going very quickly, being very suitable for the passengers. And what is very impressive, just to share with you, because many people think, oh, Germany, everybody is very correct, and I was impressed to see the people queuing up for entering the bus. Oh, yeah. There are huge queues, and people are just queuing up. It's very impressive. So just some thoughts on this. Yeah,
that's good. Ambassador, let's talk about the relationship between the two countries. It has been 100 years, and the two countries are celebrating or marking the establishment of their diplomatic relations 120 years ago. I think as a diplomat, you've got some experience and knowledge about the ways the two countries gone through in their diplomatic journey. Tell us about their relations just in time of those 120 years.
Let me pick up this one, but even extend it further, because our relationship, I would always say, is minimum 400 years old. Because 400 years ago, there were two very important figures, Abba Gregorius from Ethiopia and Georg Ludolf from Germany, and they met in Rome, actually. And through this interaction, there was the first Grammatica Ethiopica or Amharica. There was a dictionary on Ge'ez. There was a Historica Ethiopica, all written thanks to this cooperation. And I think this is a very nice example that, like 400 years ago, there's a huge cooperation in the fields of education and science. And only this week, still until tomorrow actually, there is a huge conference, the 22nd edition of the International Conference on Ethiopian Studies. And there are so many German scholars coming to Havasa, it's in Havasa, coming to Havasa and meeting their Ethiopian counterpart, their Ethiopian friends even, their Ethiopian scholar fellows, and to exchange thoughts on Ethiopian studies. I think this is something very nice and which goes far beyond, but it explains in a way that, you know, a partnership between two countries is not something in the air. It must be filled by people. We were just discussing the partnership of Leipzig and Addis Ababa, and now this scholarly partnership. We have the German school, for example, which is this year celebrating 70 years. And there's so many children, Ethiopians, international Germans, coming together, studying together. So this partnership is filled with life. But now making it more specifically on diplomatic relation, I think for us Germans might be not as well known in Ethiopia as it is important for Germany. The first official visit of a head of state after the Second World War, which was, you know, Germany was in ruins and morally as well as physically, was the Emperor Haile Selassie. And this was so important for us in Germany because it gave us, in a way, a re-recognition as being part of the global community. So if you want to pick up a diplomatic event, I think this is, at least from the German point of view, a very important one.
Okay, what about the current relationship? You mentioned the education sector. I think you've been to our site.
I've been there,
yeah, with the Ministry of Education of Ethiopia. And that's one of the indications that your country, Germany, is intensifying efforts just in sectors that touch the lives of Ethiopians, particularly education and the health and agriculture also. And what does it look like right now, the relation between the two countries in various aspects?
Oh, then we can sit here for hours, which is nice because it gives us something to talk about, and this shows how vibrant our relationship is. We were talking a little bit of education, and I just want to mention one tiny example. It is not only like, let's say, official relationship. In so many cases, it is peoples to peoples contact. We have so many NGOs in Germany, for example, that are really committed to Ethiopia. And on the other hand, we also have a huge diaspora of Ethiopians living in Germany. These are like viable ties between our two countries. You were talking about agriculture. Just to give you a very tiny example, in AMN-English, you know, we have the two lakes, and there's a lot of sediments going into the lakes, and we tried to support Ethiopian authorities and the communities living around the lake in maintaining the soil so that there will be less erosion, there will be a diversification of fruit or agroforestry, and thus keeping the lake as they are, that they're not turning around. I don't know whether they've been to the lakes. The water level is rising because of more sediments going into it, and we try to work there very specifically.
People-to-people relations, so you already mentioned that between the two countries, there is culture and other relations. Have you ever been to any religious or cultural events held in Ethiopia, like Mescal, Recha?
I love to go to these events, and well, in the New Year's I just celebrated Mescal, and just to share with you, because I think this is very important. I was so happy to be part of the Mescal celebration on Mescal Square, because it was the big event. It was so festive. It was so rich in color and rich in, I really felt the religious belief there. But from there I directly went to our neighborhood here, because it's also a question of neighborhood. And we had a wonderful Mescal celebration here in our neighborhood. So the embassy, together with the people around the embassy, celebrating together. I think this is something very, very nice. Of course, I also go to Erecha. I think it's a very colorful and impressive festival. I love Timket. I've been there on any occasion. I've been being part of the procession going to Jameda. So it is, I think, these are moments as a foreigner where you can really feel a little bit, at least. And for me, it is very complicated to understand this country, as it might be for any foreigner. But this is a moment where you can feel a little bit the spirit, the sentiments, the beliefs of people here in this country.
I saw some pictures celebrating the New Year in the premise of the German embassy. You told me something about Recha. To what extent your knowledge about the Recha festival, by the way?
Oh, I think my knowledge on Recha is rather basic.
Okay.
I know it is very important about the river, the water,
okay.
And I know that close to the Mescal Square there's a big celebration along the river, which is now under reconstruction in a way, the riverbed and the surroundings. And I saw the colorful people joying on the squares and on the roads, so this was very impressive too.
All right, Doctor, let's talk about trade and investment relations. I think it's one of the areas, vital area for nations to cooperate with. How do you think it looks like, the trade and investment relation between the two countries? I know that Germany, I think, it is the second buyer of Ethiopian products here. Just, I read something what happened last week, and also there is everything but arms. This is a kind of initiative, and Germany is encouraging Ethiopia to use that initiative. Just be EBA, I think. So in that regard, what is your encouragement and support towards these business opportunities in Germany? And the second question, what challenges have you observed for foreign investors, particularly for German investors, to invest here in Ethiopia?
In fact, I do believe, as I was saying, people's to people's contact fills the wider frame of nation-to-nation contact, and in this regard I do consider business contacts as crucial. And not only because I do believe that it is, and we experience this in Europe, you know, with an economy that is so important with the transnational exchange of goods, of workforce, of capital. You know, there's a free flow in Europe, which is so much pushing our economy, and not only the German one, but this is valid for all the European economies. And I think this free flow of as I said, goods and capital and workforce is really a booster. But coming now to the Ethiopian-German thing, and you were saying, yes, this is very important, everything but arms, which is a highly preferential customs regime. It says, as the word is saying, everything but arms can enter the European market without any tariffs and barriers and customs. So this means that, and this is a huge advantage in terms of competition, because thus the production or the product coming from Ethiopia is so much more competitive than coming from another country that is not enjoying these preferable customs regimes. So this is something which is really like supporting the economy here in Ethiopia to make its way to the European market with, I don't know, 450 million consumers with, I think, rather big pockets. They are very eager to buy a lot of things. You were saying very correctly that Germany is the second largest market for Ethiopian goods at the moment. it's not the German government, of course, buying things, but it's in the end, it is German consumers buying.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Mainly coffee, also flowers coming from Ethiopia. I think to a lesser degree gold. I think these are the three main export products from Ethiopia. But it's to a large extent coffee. And here again, just to give you that linkage with the European market, the coffee is going to Germany, yes, because it is processed there, and from there it will go to other European countries as well. So it's not all consumed by German consumers, but by European consumers. I would love to see more German companies coming to Ethiopia. And there are companies coming, there are buyers coming, garment buyers coming to Ethiopia. I think they want to diversify their sourcing companies and sourcing origins of countries. I think this is a huge chance now also when it comes to, I was just talking about Europe, but let's turn to the other side of the Atlantic with the new tax regimes we all see. So I think this is quite an advantage for Ethiopia, a comparative advantage when it comes to exporting across the Atlantic. And I don't see, to be more precise now on your question to German companies, there are not that many companies here. And when I move around, and you were saying, yes, I was in Havasa, and I also go to other places to see German companies, but other companies as well. What I hear from them, as you were alluding to, is the question of security, it's the question of political system, it's the question of the business case to be on sound, reliable predictions. And the market is huge. There are so many consumers here. We all are hoping, waiting, expecting the African continental free trade area. This can also be a huge advantage now to establish here. I think there could be a huge potential also, you know, the discussions in Germany, all around the world on climate, but I think in this regard there's a huge discussion in Germany and in Europe at large on carbon-free produced goods. Now, in this lovely country, we have so much energy produced through hydropower, or potential for windmills, or solar power. And I think it could be really a market question to produce here, thanks to renewable energy for the European market. I think this could be something very good. I just went to the special economic zone in Havasa these days, and what I hear from the companies there was that they're quite positive now, and they're like recruiting new personnel, which is always very important and gives a clear indication that it's going the right direction.
Yeah, related to that Ethiopian homegrown economic reform, I think you know something about it, and the macroeconomic reform that the Ethiopian government has embarked on to move the economy forward. The government believed in that. It has opened up markets just to foreign businesses. So how do you see, in your perspective, is it good for the country, just opening up markets and the economic reform, macroeconomic reform? What is going on in your mind when you think of this?
Tomorrow we'll be celebrating 35 years of German reunification. And in Germany we had two systems. We experienced two systems before the reunification. One is of, let's say, government-controlled business, and the other one is market-led business. And our experience, at least, was that the market-oriented business was the far better model for the whole population. Now, starting with this, coming to your question, it is, well, not me to decide, but coming from that example, I do think that these reforms now, as you were saying, the macroeconomic reforms, very bold, very courageous reforms, and to my take at least, they're absolutely in the right direction. To design a framework for the business community to have a reliable grounds to know what I can do as a businessman, how to make okay, this is the aim of a businessman to make money, but in the end it is good for the whole society. So I believe that these reforms are going in the very right direction, and it's impressive to see how far and how fast they went. And I think it is, and I do understand the government here, and I can only applaud to them that this is to be kept up. This has to be implemented not only on a, let's say, macroeconomic level, but also be implemented through all administration. And you know what we all know. One thing is to make a reform on paper and then to implement it in real life, you know, from administration to customs and all what is needed.
Germany is a well-experienced country, and it has a lot to give to other parts of the world, particularly to the countries like Ethiopia. So in this regard, what is that your embassy is doing, or is there any initiatives that support the creation of jobs in the country, or on skill development, or the other related things? Is there any activities or initiatives here?
We have a wide range of cooperation. Oh. Yeah, we were talking about academics, we were talking about agriculture, and as we were talking about jobs and creation of jobs, I think most important, and this brings us back to the market-driven economy, most important is for the government not only to provide the framework, but also to enable the workforce to be a good workforce member of a company. And we try to support in this regard the Ethiopian government. We have a huge cooperation on, you might be aware of the TVET sector. So in this regard, we do believe that this very, let's say, hands-on, which is not only academics, but real hands-on, is very important to have a good workforce, and thus to have companies that are happy to hire personnel that is capable and willing to work for them, and then to make good products in the end. And here we have a huge cooperation to foster this.
Well, Ambassador, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you've given our audiences a great insight about various issues here. Thank you so much, Ambassador.
Thank you for your time.
Well, everyone, that is it for now. This is a Diplomatic Corner, our weekly program. I've been with the Charge of Affairs in the Embassy of Germany here in Addis Ababa. Until we meet you next week, have a wonderful time.